And then after I got to the league, I had the opportunity to work out with Chris Mullin every summer. And forget it. After that, it's a done deal, as Charles and Reggie, you know. There's no greater example of work ethic and what you can be capable of doing.
But on the basketball court, you know, definitely inspired at different levels, but hard work, like you'll search out people too. So my first day of practice is Chris Mullin. And I've never seen anybody that could shoot like that. I was just in awe just watching him, and I asked him, how do you stay in this league? And he sat me in the cold tub, and I didn't want to do it. And he sat me in the hot tub, and he sat me in the cold tub, and hot tub 5 minutes. He was like, this is how I rejuvenate my body, because he was older at the end of the end of his career. And so I would just watch him stretching. I would go to his house, see what he was eating for breakfast. Like, you know, first I was a fan, and he was my man, but also I knew, you know, you follow the great ones. You follow somebody that's been before you and does it better. And Chris Mullin was a wonderful example, especially shooting drills and to be consistent, because it wasn't like I do this every Tuesday or I do this Thursday. With him, it was every day.
I can't tell you, Ernie, how the hours that I spent with Chris, like Webb's saying, just to see it, but every summer I go home, we were in the gym for 6 hours a day. You know, and this was Chris post-Dream Team, playing in Indiana, and still in the gym, having that be his getaway, and every day shooting shots and playing. I can't describe
I never
it.
even worked out with Chris Mullin, but I did the Mullin drills every day in my workout. I mean, that was his scope of his influence on the league. He actually wrote a book with Mark Grabo, the Golden State strength coach. It's called like the Top 100 or something. Those were his drills. I got a hold of that book, barely knew Chris. I did his drills every single day while I was playing.
It's stages, because the one thing about sports, every time you go to a different level, Ernie, you start over. So, like in high school, I told you, you know, Tiger Woods always talk about he had Jack Nicklaus on the wall.
Yeah.
I had a guy named Travis Abernathy on my wall in high school, because he was the best player from high school. So I had Travis up on the wall. But then when you go to college, you back at zero. And I attached myself to a guy named Greg Turner, who's still great friends today. Like, this guy was the hardest working guy. So I said, okay, I'm going to follow that guy. So then when I go to the NBA, you start back at zero. And then Moses Malone took over. And Moses probably had the greatest influence on my basketball career. Because, you know, Moses says, I said, Moses, I'm not getting to play. He says, oh, you fat and you lazy. And I said, sound like you said I was fat and I was lazy. I did, before I did. You fat and you lazy. And Moses got me, because like I say, I played at 300 pounds in college.
Holy crap.
And I thought, but because that's another thing you have to learn. High school shape ain't college shape, because you're playing against better players. And college shape ain't pro shape.
Right.
So Moses said, you need to lose 10, 15 pounds. So I'm down to 285. Things are starting to get better. I'm starting to play a little bit. He said, lose another 10 pounds. I get down to 275. Now, I'm starting. I'm playing well. I end up getting down to my playing weight, which was 250. But if Moses hadn't said that to me, but I think Brent touched on it, at every level you go to, that's one thing about sports. We don't care what you did in high school when you come to college. We don't care if you were Mr. Indiana. We don't care. We're all Mr. Somebody. Everybody on your college team is Mr. Somebody. And then when you get to the NBA, everybody was a great player on their college team. Even the worst guys on the team, they were the best player on their college team. So Brent had it was 100% correct. You always start at zero, but you have to find somebody to follow. Remember, Coach Kenny always tell the story about Bill Russell.
Right.
When he gets on the bus, he said, don't sit by him, he's a loser. Don't sit by him, he's a loser. And, like, you have to, and, like, listen, and hey, listen, and all of us guys know this, Ernie. We've been with some losers.
Yeah, indeed.
And there's been a bunch of players who, for the first contact they had in the NBA was with a loser, and their career was over.
When you think about folks who have helped you along the way, who's the first one that comes to mind, Reggie?
When I got to Indiana, John Long. He had been in the league 17, 18 years from Detroit, tough nose, shooting guard from Detroit, so many years with Isaiah, playing with the Pistons, and being drafted there. And I was fortunate because a lot of young players come in now and they're expected to play and produce. Dr. Jack Ramsey, who was our coach, sat us both down and says, you've been here, he's the future, learn from him. And he took me underneath his wing and really, we went over every scouting report before every game. We watched film. He says, this is a guy you cannot talk to. This is a guy that, he likes to go left. He taught me what the NBA was all about. And look, to this day, every time I see him, I thank him because he was a mentor. He's one of those guys that had such a big influence at such a young age for me, coming in when you're 20, 21 years old, not knowing what the league and the game is all about. He paved the way for me.
Did he do more talking or did you do more asking of questions?
I asked a lot of questions, and I got that from Magic and Michael Cooper. Working out with him during the summer, he's like, look, because they knew I had drafted, to Indiana, and they knew John. They're like, you go in and you ask as many questions as possible. You speak, but, very little, and just learn the game. And that's what I tried to do. I asked so many questions, which a lot of players don't do nowadays.